I'm now going to take you through standing alignment. So you're going to bring your feet together, heels come out, and then toes come out to meet them. From here, we're just going to take a little rock backwards and forwards, so just feeling where the weight is in your foot, and then slowly bringing yourself to a standstill where that weight is evenly balanced between your heel and your toe. Once you've come to here, we're going to think about moving the weight into the outside of the foot so that the knees track the toes, keeping them soft. Then just a gentle tuck and tilt to keep an eye on where you're placing that pelvis. And we're going to slowly make that movement slower until your tailbone is pointing down towards the floor, restacking those vertebrae, growing towards the ceiling. Next, we're going to make sure the arms are staying next to your side, so your shoulder blades are coming back and down. Just give those shoulders a little wiggle. And then next, we're going to go through the pelvic floor, core, and breathing. So as we inhale, we're going to feel that rib cage expand into the sides, back and front. The diaphragm moves down and so does the pelvic floor. As you exhale, you're thinking about pulling your ribs to hips and pulling in the pelvic floor. So we're thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Again, we're going to inhale, feel that rib cage expand, and then exhale, draw those ribs in, engage that pelvic floor, thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Again, inhale, release, and exhale, engage. Inhale, release, and exhale, engage. Couple more breaths here with me. There's quite a lot of information to take in with the breathing, core and pelvic floor, and how it works together. So don't panic if you can't nail this today. This is something that we're going to work on as we move through the course. Just keep thinking, I need to be breathing as I'm exercising, and keep thinking about pulling in those pelvic floor and core muscles at the same time. So pelvic floor, sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Core, we're thinking rib to hip, hip to hip, belly button to spine. And now we're ready for our workout. This is one of my favourite rotational mobility exercises for your spine. We're going to do book. So we're going to come down onto the mat, making sure your hip and shoulder are in a line and that your head stays in line with the rest of your spine. So you're going to need a cushion under that head. Arms come out parallel. We're going to stretch that top arm forward and then reach it up so your hand is in line with your shoulder. And then the rotation is coming through your mid-spine. So think about your rib cage moving, gently bringing that arm back behind you, making sure your hips stay stacked one on top of the other. We're going to hold that at the back for an inhale. And then exhale, gently bring that arm up so your hand is in line with the sky. And then gently bring that arm back to the front, fighting gravity as you bring that arm back. Every time you rotate back, you can either leave your head facing forward or you can take your hand with you. It's entirely up to you. As you come back, remember you're rotating through that mid-spine until your hand is in line with your shoulder, and then you're gently closing that arm down. You should get a nice stretch across the chest as you bring that arm back behind you. And then once we've finished our set, we're going to roll over onto the other side, making sure your hip and shoulder are in line. And again, stretching that arm forward, reaching up to the sky, and then letting that spine rotate backwards. So you coming from your rib cage, nice opening chest stretch, keeping your hips stacked one on top of the other. And then again, using your spinal mobility to bring that arm back to facing the ceiling, and then slow controlled movement of the hand back to our starting location. Making sure your shoulders remain relaxed, so don't bring your shoulder up towards your ear as you rotate back. Keeping your knees glued together. So the rotation comes through that mid-spine, and we're going to exhale, engage your core and rotate back, making sure that you're using those core muscles to stabilize the movement. And once you've finished your set, coming up into your rest pose. I'm now going to take you through swan dive. So we're going to come down onto the mat, laying on your front. Toes are tucked in, that switches off the glutes. And then you're going to bring your elbow so it's just in front of your shoulder. So you've got a gentle bend in the elbows. We're going to take an inhale at the bottom. So filling those lungs, feeling that belly expand a little bit. Then exhale, engage your core and lift your head, neck and shoulders up off the floor, keeping your head in line with the rest of your spine. You should feel the work coming from that upper back. If you feel like you're really squeezing your glutes or your feet are lifting off the floor, I want you to try coming up not quite so high and really turn those toes in to really help to switch those glutes off. You might find you get a little bit of tension in that lower back, but it shouldn't feel like pinching and it shouldn't be painful. If it is either of these things, please get in touch and I will give you a different move. Holding at the bottom for an inhale, and then we're exhaling, engaging that core and pelvic floor and lifting. When we're thinking about core and pelvic floor, we're thinking pelvic floor, sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. And then with our core, we're thinking about pulling those hip bones together, pulling your ribs down towards your hips. Coming into lifting the arm, you can either lift a double or you can lift single. It's entirely up to you. See how it feels and decide where you want to work. I'm going to, for the rest of the demonstrations, do a double arm lift. And again, you could just lift both arms, but maybe not do the stretch forward if you feel like that is not quite right for you yet. The work should all be coming from that upper back. Trying to keep that lower body switched off. And you're keeping your head in line with the rest of your spine. So make sure you're not lifting your head and looking ahead of yourself. If you can see what's out of the window or what's in your room in front of your head, in front of your mat, then you're looking in the wrong direction. Your eye line should be down at the floor. Once you're finished, we're going to pull back into our child's pose as our release stretch. And we're going to hold this for your own count of somewhere between 20 and 30 seconds. This next move is a great core exercise. So we're going to do toe taps. We're going to come down onto the mat. Pelvis in neutral, so rib and hip in line, little gap under that low back. Bringing one leg up into your tabletop position, so knee over hip, shin parallel with the ceiling. Then bring the other leg up to copy it. Moving from the hip, we're going to move one leg away on your exhale. So as you exhale, thinking rib to hip to hip, pelvic floor engages. So we're thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. When that foot hits the floor, we're just going to do a gentle tap for 2 and then bring the leg back in. As you bring the leg back in, you'll then be on your second exhale. So as you tap, we're going to inhale, exhale, bring the leg back in. If you can't get the breathing yet, don't worry too much about that. Just make sure that you're engaging your core. You're thinking rib to hip connection, hip to hip and pelvic floor, as the leg is moving. So we're stabilizing that leg movement using your core muscles. We're going to alternate from side to side. If you're finding this a little bit too strong, you could keep one leg on the floor. So nice bent knee, foot flat on the floor. If you want to make this more challenging, you could do it with your arms in the air. Training the core muscles in a simple exercise like this toe tap gives you the opportunity to really work on how the breath, the core and pelvic floor and the movement work together. So as I've been trying to encourage you to do, we're going to think about exhaling as you move, engaging your core and pelvic floor at that moment. So we're pulling the ribs down towards the hips, pelvic floor. We're thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Then as we inhale, we can just gently let go of the core a little bit. So we're going to release that control slightly. Take that inhale, feel those ribs expand. Then as you exhale, ready for the movement of the leg, so the big movement to happen again, we're going to close that rib cage down, pull those ribs together, belly button to spine, hips together, to really switch the core on so that the core is stable as the leg moves. And when you're done, hugging your knees into your chest, little back rock for 30 seconds, and then come back up to your rest pose.